This is for Mike. It takes a lot to create the theme park for audiophiles that Mike has created. And there are very few of our partners that have invested so heavily in what we do and supporting Wilson Audio to the degree that Mike has. This is a trophy for those autobiography partners, we're calling them APs. Only APs will get this. It's, I love the symbolism here that over the years, Wilson Audio has grown and built, and it's because of people like Mike, APs and dealers that support what we do and appreciate what we do. And not only that, the way that you take care of your clients. And so many people I talk to have become your friend. And that's so important. It's about relationships as well as products.
It's all about relationships.
Yeah, so thank you for supporting us.
Thanks to you, there's an after road. Otherwise, one can only guess what happened next. As it is, I walk and stumble through the world.
Any questions that I can answer about autobiography before now? I've got autobiography stuck in my head. that Daryl Wilson, he's not impressionable now.
Is the bottom bass cabinet made of that Wilson special material, or is it metal?
Yes, both. So on the website you'll see a material section, and you can tap on the material that we use in the enclosure, and it makes everything else disappear except that material that you selected.
Okay.
So if you go to our website right now, you could play with that and see what parts are X material, aluminum, H material, V material. The woofer is a combination of V material. The entire bottom is V material. It's a new thickness of V material. And then the back, where the crossover is coupled to the enclosure, that's also V material. So you have any vibrations that are trying to migrate through the woofer to the crossover has to penetrate through our most damped material, which is V material. And so the majority of the enclosure is X material, and then we use aluminum as a damping element, so we're adding mass to it. So it's kind of like a constrained layer philosophy, even though the material itself is a constrained layer. So to answer your question, yes, it's made of metal and composites. Yes. Yep. 2 more minutes.
I see those drivers are more close together than the WAM.
Yes, that's
Does
a
it make a
really
difference?
good observation. So we had 3 goals when it came to designing autobiography. The first goal was to be the most accurate time-aligned loudspeaker ever conceived. And when you have the WAM, when you have a system like this that's accurate down to 2 microseconds, that's a lofty goal. The XVX has the same precision as the WAM. The second one was, well, if we make it more accurate and we use the same number of drivers as the WAM, and then we want to add a 12-inch and a 15-inch woofer, that's going to increase the size of the woofer enclosure, which means that the overall height is going to be too tall. So goal number 2, how do we compress it down and make it shorter than the WAM while having the same number of drivers front firing? And then goal number 3 is to get the footprint as close to XVX as possible. Now, because of the size of the woofers, the width, it's about 2.5 inches more on each side from XVX, but it's only 2 inches deeper. So we increase the volume by increasing the size of the woofer upwards, and because of all this new hardware, we were able to compress the upper and lower 7-inch mid-range 6 inches closer than the WAM. Amazing, amazing work. The accuracy on this system fore and aft is equivalent to the XVX and the WAM, but the precision and the time alignment abilities of this system with this MTM array and allowing these 7-inch mid-ranges to be independently adjustable is zero. Zero deviation between the drivers at that listening position. By the way, that's the sweet spot of the room. Sorry, David.
This is my first rodeo.
He knows. All right, so officially starting the demo now, right? This is the first one, so my rhythm isn't here, and so I apologize. It's not gonna be as smooth as later on tonight. But what's in a name? Autobiography. Some people have thought that this is Daryl Wilson's autobiography. I don't want anyone to ever assume that that's the case. We named it Autobiography because as I was looking for a name, we've got masculine names like Alex and Max. We've got feminine names like Sophia, Alexia. And it just, when I looked at where we were with the second prototype, it just didn't feel like it needed a name like that. And then Chronosonic, time and sound. So you have the WAM Master Chronosonic, and you have the Chronosonic XVX, which use the same hardware. We developed completely different hardware for this, and the architecture, the design philosophy is different on this. And so I didn't want to use Chronosonic with this. And then it hit me. I looked at it, and every single piece told the story of Wilson Audio's history, told the story of development over time. And so it's really a physical representation of the autobiography, the history of Wilson Audio. So this is Wilson Audio's autobiography.
That's a long ways from what?
It's a long ways. It's a long way. So that's in the name. We're gonna have, 7 tracks? We have a total of 7 tracks, is that correct? Yep, 7
What are
tracks.
you using for a source?
DCS Varese.
Yes. So do you wanna quickly describe the gear associated with it?
Sure. So behind you here, we're actually using the DCS Varese, which is their 5-piece flagship streamer. You got the interface, left DAC, right DAC, the master clock there in the core. And then for amplification, we're also using the Burmester 077 Preamp, as well as the Burmester 159 Monoblocks, which are rated about 1200 watts a channel into 4 ohms. Now, is this a 3 ohm nominal loudspeaker?
Yeah, so it's minimum is 2.1, and the WAM is 1.77. The XVX is 1.6, and the Alex is 2. So its minimum impedance is actually higher than those 3 loudspeakers. So any gear that you have playing any of your Wilson systems now will work absolutely well with autobiography. So the information, I don't want to go through too much information that can be found on the website, so please go to wilsonaudio.com. There's lots of information. I don't want to spend time today talking about specifications, so read it. We spent a lot of time making sure there was a lot of great stuff. This first track is Bubbles by Yoshi Hirakawa.
Yeah.
And he recorded this space where you hear various balls dropping on various surfaces. And what this does is it demonstrates the depth and the width of the soundstage. If the system is getting it right, you're gonna hear stuff that, you know, the ball is rolling off to the side, way outside the soundstage and deep into the soundstage. It's not just an organic flow of materials, and as an artist, I really had fun with this one. Really had a lot of fun. It's the utilization of materials in the proper location. We know that there's not one material that does everything well in every application. And so whether it's the V material on the bottom and the back, or the X material that's made, the enclosures are made out of, or where the aluminum is strategically placed to dampen and to further give silence between the notes. Even down to the alignment sled arms. If you look over here, standard colors for this core right here is red. I like red things. And Mike wanted this to be really elegant and beautiful, so he chose the color that matched the rest of the enclosure. But this arm, if you were to pull this out, each arm is like a clamshell. You open it up and the inside is V material. And so the alignment pins coming off of the enclosure here, if you look down, it's actually resting on V material. And then the interface in the back where you have the slide spike, when you come up afterwards, you'll notice it's also resting on V material. Even this intentional gap right here, the interface between the alignment pin and the enclosure, we have a small piece of V material inside there. Every single square inch of this product has been thoroughly thought through and intentionally designed. So materials, very important that form follows function with this product. This next track is if we did our job right and the materials and the way that we've designed the speaker is done right, it will give you extra real estate in your house. And real estate in some places of the world is really expensive, right? when you close your eyes and you listen to this next track. This is Michael Stearns, St. Francis, and he went to Venezuela and went to the top of this plateau and just hit record. And he's got little undertones of music and whatnot, but it's this natural space. So you hear off to the side, you hear bugs and birds chirping and whatnot, fire, his Sherpa you'll hear. And then there's a cool element where there's a bird that flies up and you can hear it cawing, and then it goes over to the left channel, and as it's flying away it caws. And it's almost like the soundstage stretches. So this one, it's quite meditative and beautiful and relaxing, and it will be the most relaxing demo piece we have. The next one is going to blow your socks off. So this is St. Francis by Michael Stearns. Introduced all new drivers. So the Pentamag is an evolution of the Quadramag. The 2-inch mid-range handles the upper section of the mid-band frequency. And it is so beautifully natural. And it allowed us, as instead of using the 4-inch as found in the XVX and the WAM, it allowed us to cross over a little bit higher for the tweeter, to the tweeter. And so the tweeter is actually low-fi. There's less information that has to go to the tweeter, and so it sounds more expressive and dynamic. But the thing here that's really new and exciting is the woofers. Built in tandem, built together to work in the same enclosure, done the Wilson way. And it's a brand new 12-inch and 15-inch woofer. So that one kind of made us all a little bit sleepy and drowsy. This one's gonna wake you up. I'm only gonna play 42 seconds of it because not everyone loves this kind of music. It's dubstep, right? But it proves a point. How much can it pressurize a room? And so this is Sunshine of Your Love, and I'm a Pink Floyd fan. And so it comes from the album Dark Side of the Trash. So enjoy. electronic, but it's more expansive. And it makes a little bit more sense, it's more fun. We have live orchestral music later, and so I wanted to throw this in here to give a little bit more variety. So electronic music has the ability, if it's done right, to really sound big. And so this one is, I hadn't heard this one until our director of sales, Trent, we were doing the launch of Autobiography, and he just sent it to me and said, "Have you heard this?" And I was like, "No." It's called Crooked, and it's by a band named Smilk. And I remember that because it's sour milk, right? Hopefully it's not sour, it's good. So this one is Crooked.
And sometimes it comes out, just looking like a load of nonsense put together. But sometimes when I get it right, I feel it comes across just as my dreams come across.
We didn't create this to compete with the Wham. The Wham was introduced in 2017, and it took 5 years to develop that. And that was Dave Wilson's Magnum Opus. I feel honored to be a part of that and to work with my dad to create such a masterpiece. I have no intentions to ever touch that design. It's a limited edition product. It will stay in the catalog until we've sold all the ones that my dad wanted to sell. So this isn't in direct competition with the Wham. The Wham it's a complex product, and for its time, it was the absolute best we could do in 2017. It has 900 parts per channel. The Autobiography is a little more complex. It has 1,800 parts per channel. And one of the engineers pointed out, the ball bearings, which we use 36 in each channel, for the alignment sleds, they all have little balls inside. Should we count those too? And I said no. So if you count the little balls in there, there's well over 2,000 parts per channel. Every one of those parts has to be touched by at least 2 hands at Wilson Audio. So you think about how long it takes to manufacture something of this complexity, but at the end of the day, the complexity isn't something that you need to worry about. It's the most advanced loudspeaker we've ever created, and I would argue that's ever been developed or conceived. And the way that we designed it and developed it is so that LMC, as they're setting it up in your house, they're able to put it together so rapidly that they're gonna spend more time cleaning it off and wiping it down to make it look good for you than actually setting it up. It's simpler than the WAM, it's simpler than the XVX. That takes a lot of time and effort to be able to do that. So we took a lot of time at the beginning in the engineering process to make it simple for LMC to be able to set it.
What is your build time for a set?
Machining time, I'm gonna answer the question in a roundabout way here. Machining time for one of these gantry blades, right? One. It comes with 4, right? You buy one, you get 3 free. Machining time for one of the gantries is 14 hours. 14 hours per blade. And that also includes, on top of the 14 hours of actual machining, because those beautiful lines, they take cubic time, there's 4 operations that take 3 hours of setup each. We had our machinists calculate how much, for all of the metal pieces, how long does it take to machine a single channel. Turns out that it takes 18.75 days running 2 shifts to be able to machine all the metal that's used in this product. We have 3 downdraft paint booths, and usually there's a variety of Sabrinas and Alex and the Watt Puppy and Alexia's in there. When we have an autobiography coming through, all 3 downdraft paint booths have all the parts of one pair of autobiography. It completely takes up our capacity for an entire day for one pair. It takes a lot of cubic time to manufacture. I am talking to our COO, and I've asked him for that information. They're calculating all that stuff. Wilson Audio is still really a small company. We have about 60 employees, right? 60 employees. So in relative terms in the world, that's it's a boutique type of company. But it's amazing what we're able to do because of the passion of the craftspeople at Wilson Audio. Everyone brings their best to the table. So I don't have an exact number. I have little snippets, but we will have the exact number
I
soon.
bet it'll change over time to get better at it too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
This sounds so holographic, like I'm sitting in the middle of a sound bubble with speakers all around me.
Yes, yes.
So the speakers disappear and you feel like sound is coming all over you.
That's the goal. The accuracy in the time domain is so critical to preserve those very short, delicate waveforms. Okay, so next one, let's do Japanese roots. Takidake literally translates to bamboo only, right? Bamboo only. So all of the most of the instruments are made from bamboo. So you'll hear the difference if you take 2 pieces of redwood and you smack them together. That sounds different than if you smack bamboo. So you should hear it sound like bamboo. The textures and the fibers are intact. So this is Japanese roots, very natural sounding. upset, to be fearful, hate this person or that person. And I love that we have systems and the ability to play music, really any recorded music nowadays at the tap of a finger, and we can choose to listen to positive messages. So if you've been at one of my demos, you've probably heard that I play this one. It reminds me of my dad. It's Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Great message, and he does all of the sound effects in the track.
Song I wrote, you might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy. In every life we have some trouble, but when you worry you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. Place to lay your head. Somebody came and took your bed. Don't worry, be happy. The landlord say your rent is late. He may have to litigate. Don't worry, be happy. Look at me, I'm happy. Be happy. happy. Can I give you my phone number? When you're worried, call me. I make you happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no style, ain't got no gal to make you smile, but don't worry, be happy. Cause when you're worried, your face will frown, and that will bring everybody down. So don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry. Be happy.
I want to thank everyone for spending your night with us here to hear something that we passionately worked on and developed for you to enjoy. It's a special weekend, and I know that there's a million places that you could be, but you chose to be here. Thank you so much for doing so. Yes?
How long did these take? How long have you been working on these?
If you ask about the whole system, first initial drawings of a potential of the shape was back when I was working with my dad on the WAM. When it comes to the drivers, some of the drivers we were working on 4 years ago. And then when we started serious work on, okay, here are the 3 goals, and how do we get this compact design relative to the WAM, okay? It's all relative. And started working on the hardware to do so. That was about 2.5 years ago. So it's all, there are so many different elements of developing a loudspeaker. And we have 2 systems at Wilson Audio. We've got grassroots development, which is the capacitors, the drivers, the cables, the binding posts, all the nuts and bolts, all the pieces, the materials. And we have anywhere from 3 to 7 experiments going on in identifying each piece and how can we make it better. When those finish the development cycle and they are confirmed better, then we push it up to the next product that we're developing. So product development is somewhat separate than grassroots development. So hopefully that answers your question.
It did, yeah.
Yes.
These are the
Sorry, now you have the Pentamag, what is your plans for trickle down with that?
Oh man, see the
You probably
gray?
won't tell me.
You see the gray in my beard? Yeah, my focus right now is 100% on this
Okay.
and promoting it. It took a lot to get it. It is a paradigm shifting product, I will say that. So how long, all that happens. Trickle down is a common term. I love the concept of distilled evolution, because if something in grassroots development is ready, like H material with Sabrina V. H material, we finished developing it and we proved it out, and the next product we were working on was Sabrina V. We didn't hold it until a product like this. It was ready for the next product. So really it's distilled evolution is the way that I like it, because trickle down implies that it only starts at the top and it goes down.
Yeah, because you started with stuff that brought it up too.
Yes, exactly. So this last one after this last track, please. We all have soundtracks of our life, right? And when I was 5, there was music that was playing that was different than you, and all of us here had different soundtracks for our lives. So this last one is a part of the soundtrack of my life. Whenever I hear it, it reminds me of when I was in my grandma's house, and I'd be in front of her old tube TV, and I'd hear this song about a precocious panther that happens to be pink, giving the detective a very hard time.
Henry Mancini.
Wow.
Mancini.
This is the
That was
best
him.
speaker I ever heard in my
Production.
life.
Yeah. What's that?
These are the best speakers I ever heard in my life. I think it exceeds the Wham,
You can't live
especially
without
the
them.
mid-range.
Yeah.
The mid-range is magical.
So you'll take
We're
two?
we're gonna ask David to submit his resume to Wilson Audio.
It's just,
Hey, Daryl, how many hours do these have on them? Do you consider?
They got here 2 days ago, right?
So, about 30, and then a break,
My fault.
and then probably another 12.
Yeah, so what we found in capacitor development, we just happened to have a capacitor manufacturing department at Wilson Audio. We found with the capacitors that the majority of the burn-in and improvements sonically happen within the first 25 hours. You still get improvements up until about 100 hours, but I didn't hear any difference between a capacitor that was burned in for 100 hours, 200 hours, 256, and 300 hours. And I was able to do that whole test because I was burning them in, and it took about a month to be able to do this experiment. They're still breaking in. I apologize. They're going to sound better when you come back and you say, hey, Mike, I want to listen, and bring your own music, have a personal and private session with him, and I would encourage you to come back. But thank you once again for spending your evening with us. So with the Wham Master Chronosonic, there are spikes on the bottom, and then there's a sled that it's a micrometer that it's attached to. And there's spikes on the bottom of the XVX as well. To bring the 7-inch lower and the 7-inch upper closer together, we had to remove the spikes and then create a whole nother system of alignment. So if the spikes aren't on the bottom, where do we put them? Jerem, one of our engineers, figured out that if we put it on the side, we're able to bring these drivers closer together. The distance from this lower 7-inch and the distance to this upper 7-inch is 6 inches closer together than the Wham Master Chronosonic. And so we're able to align and move the drivers and the enclosures fore and aft with the alignment sled, the same as the micrometer on the Wham. However, we're able to bring, because of this mechanical system, we're able to bring the drivers closer together. And so that means that the system isn't taller when we introduced the new 12-inch and the new 17, or the new 12-inch and the new 15-inch driver. It's been a long day.
No, in sales. Okay. In sales.
we at Wilson Audio understand that there's not one material that does everything well in all areas. And so when you look and you study the enclosure, you'll find that there's V material on the bottom of the woofer enclosure and V material on the back of the enclosure. Also, there's V material underneath the whole gantry. This painted material right here is also V material. It's not just for decoration. It's actually to dampen any vibrations that are trying to make it in or out of the enclosures. So if you follow the alignment arm out, you'll notice right here, if you look straight down, this alignment pin is actually sitting on V material. And then this gap right here, this gap has V material that is between the alignment pin and the enclosure interface here. Even on the back, right here, you have the slide spike is resting on V material that's inside of this metal cross brace. V material is isolating every element of this design. So V material is just one material that we use. We use V material, we use aluminum, we use X material in a lot of the enclosures, and then on the front baffle of the mid-range, so the 7-inch mid-range and the 2-inch mid-range, these baffles are made out of the new H material. H material was first introduced in the Sabrina V. Also, these damping elements on the side are also H material. And I love how this piece right here, painted, it starts off on the outside of the gantry and then it curves underneath and it clamps to the back. So you have two pieces of material that are clamping and constraining the metal to dampen the metal. And then all of this, all the different metal, you have this open architecture in the back. The open architecture allows the speaker to breathe. Then you have the cabling that is nicely dressed going down to the binding posts. These binding posts are the Wilson Audio binding posts. And the spade and the binding posts themselves are designed to mate together. And then if you look down here, we have new copper heat sinks, which are 60% more efficient with thermal conductivity. So the resistors, you have a signal going through the resistor, and transients are fast. Music has fast rise times. So the heat sink needs to be able to pull heat away from the resistor fast. And so the copper does that 60% more efficient than the aluminum. And then, as a point of beauty, I love the look of this new copper carbon fiber weave. Looks like jewelry. All this can be done. These resistors can be changed with no tools. The alignment and adjustment of the slide spike, no tools. And then moving the sleds, the alignment sleds back and forth, no tools necessary. You just unlock it and turn it, and it moves back and forth. If you look on the inside right here, this alignment scale is very precise. And you have this three-dimensional alignment indicator that is always red because I like the color red. You know this. And it's very easy to see the contrast of where the sled is. So alignment of this system is absolutely perfect between the drivers. We've never done a design where the alignment is absolutely perfect. What you can see with this front, on the Wham and the XVX, the upper mid-range and the lower mid-range are coupled together. There's spikes on the bottom and the mid-range is connected together. And so when you move the lower 7-inch mid-range, the upper mid-range would move. With this design, you can see that it's an MTM design, and the 2-inch mid-ranges are always going to be perfectly aligned because they're coupled together. The tweeter will move back and forth independent from the 2-inch. So at the listening position, when we align it for the listening position, the 2-inch mid-ranges are always going to be precisely and exactly aligned with the tweeter. And because the mid-ranges are decoupled from each other mechanically, when you move the lower 7-inch and you move the upper 7-inch, these two can be aligned precisely. All of these drivers can be aligned with 0 delay in the time domain. It is the most accurate loudspeaker we've ever conceived and ever manufactured. So the Autobiography has all new drivers. The Convergent Synergy tweeter, this is a brand new tweeter configuration that has a laser sintered rear wave chamber with an architecture that you cannot do with any other system besides the laser sintering system that we have, the SLS printer. The upper mid-range 2-inch mid-range domed, those are brand new. We've never used them before. This is the first product we're introducing it in. Even the shape here around the 2-inch has been fine-tuned specifically for this driver and to work well with the 7-inch Pentamag. The 7-inch Pentamag is an evolution of the Quadramag. It's an Alnico mid-range, and it has 5 Alnico slugs on it versus the Quadramag, which has 4 Alnico slugs. Even the rear-firing ambient tweeter is a brand new tweeter. That brings us down to the woofers. So the Wham and the XVX use a 10.5 and a 12.5-inch woofer. We wanted to have the system go down deeper. We found that large systems like the Wham Master Chronosonic, the Chronosonic XVX, and Alex V, they're used in typically in bigger rooms. And so the demand to go deep in the bass and have authority in the low frequencies was something that we got feedback that these aren't being installed in a lot of mid-sized rooms. Even though they are, when they're in large rooms, customers were wanting to buy subwoofers. So we wanted a system that could perform deeply, and especially in mid-sized rooms, without the need of subwoofers. And so the specification on this system at 15 feet goes down to 18 hertz. And that's minus 2 dB at 18 hertz. You really feel the ground shake. You feel that that pedal on the organ that goes down to 16 hertz. That information, the room rumble, is present when you listen to this system like no other system we've developed before.